Well, at one level, one could say, is precisely to find this meaning. One question which immediately surfaces is whether life has an intrinsic meaning which we have to discover, or whether life is something to which we have to impart meaning, confer meaning on. And of course, then you can ask, why should life be meaningful? Is life meaningful? Is a harder question to answer, that is intrinsically meaningful, than the question, should life be meaningful? Because I think we intuitively feel that a meaningless life may not be really quite worth living. This leads to a very important, or rather, this leads our discussion into a very significant direction. How do we decide what to do when we cannot decide on the value of any course of action on the basis of truth, or on the basis of information which can be empirically settled? We are having difficult times these days because of COVID-19, I guess. Yeah, am I saying it right? Because of COVID. Now, which is the best way to deal with COVID is a question which can be settled empirically. Right? And whether life is worth living or not is also a question we might be able to settle empirically by arguing that it is better to have a meaningful life than a meaningless life. But whether it is good to believe in God or not is very difficult to settle on the question of whether God exists or not. That is, in terms of its truth value. And since many of the questions, the larger questions of life, belong to this category, how do we settle them? Or at least deal with them? Now, one very interesting approach to this question, which has been recommended by scholars like William James earlier, or Houston Smith, or even by the Buddha, by the way, seems to be that when we are dealing with such questions, we should ask, which belief is most helpful for me? So the Buddha says, we don't know whether there is rebirth. If you think that we don't know whether there is rebirth or not, whether we survive death or not, ask yourself the question, would life be more meaningful if I believed that we survive death? Would it be more meaningful if I believed that we don't survive? Within the kind of the framework in which we live, which has evolved in the course of our discussion here, our discussion of light and darkness, those orbs of light and darkness, the island of knowledge and the shoreline of ignorance, and the various options we have in life in terms of religions and ideologies. In terms of that framework, this might be one way of proceeding.